US Open champion Pete Sampras against French Open champion Yevgeny Kafelnikov. The number 1 seed against the number 3 seed, the world's number 1 against the world's number 5. And a real mouth-watering prospect it is. Their first meeting since the semi-finals of the French, in which Sampras simply ran out of steam after losing the first set tiebreak and garnered only 2 more games from Kafelnikov. The overall head-to-head is 4-2 in favour of Sampras, and he's won their only indoor match on a carpet court at the ATP World Championship in its former venue Frankfurt last year. 6-3, 6-3. He's also won indoors on clay in the Davis Cup final last year. He's also won at the Australian Open, their first meeting, perhaps their most dramatic meeting, 9-7 in the 5th set in 1994, the second round of the Australian Open, which was a result that made everyone sit up and take notice of Kafelnikov. And Sampras has actually won on clay at the World Team Cup in Dusseldorf in 1994. Kafelnikov's 2 wins, both on clay, World Team Cup this year, and then at the French this year. Pete Sampras playing in Basel for the first time. Yevgeny Kafelnikov for the third time in a row, and prior to this week had never got past the second round.
Yes, one sometimes wonders about this week because it's a week really in which the players are making their transition from outdoor tennis to indoor tennis. Not that it's a massive move. In fact, it's easier to come indoors than it is to go outdoor from indoor tennis. But nevertheless, there are obviously adjustments to be made. Sampras, for instance, when he started practicing last Wednesday after his US Open exploits, got here on Sunday. Fortunately, didn't leave it too late, probably just as well, because had he not done so, I think Alex Radulescu would certainly have had him in the opening round. But he's warmed to the task, and those 6 sets of tennis brought him on court against Tillström in really terrific form.
Both of them have had their scares. You mentioned Pete Sampras was 3-4 and 15-40 down in the final set against Alex Radulescu, and in particular on the second of those break points hit the most brilliant backhand down the line as Radulescu came in on a good approach to save the day. And of course Yevgeny Kafelnikov was a set and 4 love down to Mark Kevin Golner. So both of them could have sort of said, well, okay, it is the transition week, it's not the end of the world if I lose here, but it's to both of their credits that they didn't adopt that attitude.
Very much so, yes. Sampras is not that sort of an individual, and I think Kafelnikov has been in the past, but I think Sampras is the winner of major titles. Kafelnikov now the winner of 1 major, the French. I think he's instilled into him a little bit more pride. I think had the match against Golner happened last year, we wouldn't now be seeing Kafelnikov out in court at all. One thing that he has to do well, I think, today is serve well. We saw him flexing his arm. It's almost as if he recognizes that fact. He's not going to match Sampras in that department. Well, he would hope that he would. In other words, he'd be hoping that Sampras doesn't serve well, but he really can't expect to. And I feel if he doesn't, Sampras may just be hungry enough to take advantage of his second serve. Kafelnikov, even though he eventually won through comfortably in 6-2 in the third against Golner, was frankly not at his best.
No, he admitted precisely that fact when he talked to Heinz Gontot after that match. Indeed, he said, well, really, I've been somewhat below my best all week, but I keep winning, and of course that's what it's all about. And he's hoping that his form will get better and better as the indoor season moves towards its climax in Hanover. And incidentally, by reaching the semi-finals here, Kafelnikov is now the 5th person to qualify. Richard Kaufman, originally from Seattle, Washington, now living in New York State, is our umpire for this match. having been fined heavily for being late on court yesterday.
Yes.
And I actually had a joke with poor Richard and our supervisor Tom Barnes about Richard's late appearance yesterday. And we've been asked to supply the tape to the ATP headquarters in Pontevedra to David Cooper, who looks after all of the officials, and I think the word is that they've been looking for a reason to get rid of Richard for years, and now they've got one. But he's a superman, and someone I've had the pleasure of working with many years ago when I was officiating, and he's a very fine official indeed. And he took the joke fairly well, except when I said, well, of course we could be bribed into not giving the tape, and then he clammed up totally.
Yes, it would have been quite a change moving from Seattle to New York to Siberia.
Yes.
This court is a fairly low bouncing court. Those of you who've been watching will have noticed that and would have heard us say that. So it takes a slice pretty well. Neither of these men has got a particularly good slice. Kafelnikov, I would hope, would use a lot more of the two-handed backhand than the one-handed slice. And if he does use the one-hander, it tends not to be a shot in which he's looking to come in to the net behind it.
Ball girl just indicating she hasn't got any balls to throw to either player for them to serve. Kafelnikov 3 wins this year: Adelaide, Prague and the French Open. Sampras 6 wins: San Jose, Memphis, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Indianapolis, and of course the US Open. Kafelnikov, as always, the workhorse of the tour. He's sort of taken over that mantle from Karol Novacek. Kafelnikov will be playing in the doubles semi-final after this with Daniel Vacek, with whom he won the French Open doubles, of course, up against an interesting partnership, Jeff Tarango and a gentleman called Ekerot, who I must confess I've never heard of before. Have you?
Yes, I have, only because I know that they've played 2 tournaments together and won both of them. They're undefeated as a team.
Ah, well, then it could be quite a match.
Yes.
Sampras' singles record this year: 55 wins, 8 defeats. Kafelnikov 62 wins, 17 defeats. So he's played 79 matches to Sampras' 63. But then Yevgeny is a bit like John McEnroe was in his prime. He just loves to play matches, plays singles and doubles, because he reckons that way he doesn't have to practice too much.
Yes. He's won the toss here, and rather surprisingly, he's elected to serve, although I think it's a good thing, but I didn't expect him to do it.
The second semi-final then, the winner to play Hendrik Drakeman.
And that's going to be one of the features to watch out for, what Sampras does with Kafelnikov's forehand, because Kafelnikov will be playing a lot to the backhand, waiting for the short one, and then coming quickly to the forehand to the open court. And this was a mini example here. Sampras not necessarily in full flow, but using some of Kafelnikov's pace.
2 aces in this opening service game. So Kafelnikov clearly heeding the words of Frew McMillan. Frew, who was twice the doubles champion here, 1976 with Tom Ocker, 79 with his more regular mucker, Bob Hewitt. Talking of Bob, he'll be rejoining Eurosport's commentary team for the Paris indoors at the end of next month.
Okay,
Oh, good serving from Kafelnikov. And he wins the opening game of the second semi-final. Pete Sampras' opening service game. He's served the first serve fault.
Well, Kafelnikov's got terrific footwork. Sampras has also got good footwork, and he'll need it to run around those backhands to get the forehand into play.
Took Sampras' serve a little while to get going yesterday against Thielström, but when it got going towards the end of the first set and throughout the second, it was devastating. Not quite wide enough.
15-30. Yes, it's one of the departments in which Sampras recognizes Kafelnikov's greatness, really, that return of serve.
And that, in many ways, was an even better one.
It was like Agassi and Korda. You could take a very early ball and use Sampras' pace, therefore.
That's on the line too. And a terrific start for Yevgeny Kafelnikov.
He leads 2-love.
Throwing down the gauntlet straight away.
Yes, absolutely brilliant, particularly the first forehand return and then matching it, mirroring it with that one.
Oh. Shot for shot.
Well, this is the development I was referring to. That's going to be the interesting part of this match, or one of them.
Well, in the first semi-final, it was Novak who got the early break and lost it immediately and was always struggling thereafter.
Yes, he needs a good, decent first serve.
That do you?
Very well. 15-30. And now he's got to tell himself just that many more. I think that's part of his problem sometimes, Kafelnikov, on a faster court. 2 or 3 makes him happy.
Well, one of the curious statistics so far, 3 aces for one man, none to the other, and they've all been to Kafelnikov. Well, a real buzz in the crowd. Didn't expect to see this scoreline. 3-love, Kafelnikov leads first set. Brilliant start by Yevgeny Kafelnikov. Just behind there is Paul Annacone, half hidden. Coach, of course, to Pete Sampras. Also here is Todd Schneider, Pete's personal physical trainer.
Well, it becomes a really exciting spectacle with Kafelnikov returning as well. Not going to see the serve dominating.
Left first serve.
First ace from Sampras.
30-love.
Gosh, he wasn't far away from making that. Just clipping the top of the tape. It's a love game for Sampras.
Kafelnikov leads 3-1.
Yes, he was into the match from the start, was Kafelnikov, but you just have the feeling that Sampras has just woken up. He's just into the match.
There's Paul Annacone.
Well, that's the backhand that you were referring to, that he played against Radulescu. I must admit, I've not often seen him play two quite as startlingly good as theirs. Almost Edberg-like.
That's perhaps what we're more used to. Everything's relative, isn't it? I mean, we've always talked about Edberg's weaker forehand wing. It's not a bad shot. Equally, Sampras's backhand is not, by mere mortal standards, that lousy.
No, exactly. It's like having a rich cousin or a rich brother.
First double fault of the match.
Yes, he'll want to reduce those. He's been serving 6 a match, then these 3-set matches.
Yes, a look of pain on Kafelnikov's face, because that's a poor error, and it gives Sampras the chance to break back.
Yes, particularly poor error, because Sampras had returned mid-court. He should have been looking to pounce it immediately. Get in with a heavy two-hander to the Sampras backhand.
Oh. Well, of course Kafelnikov was lucky, but maybe he earned his luck by somehow getting that big forehand back.
Yes, quite. And impossible situation for Sampras. But on the other hand, had he a bit more power in his high backhand volley, he might well have, or would have won the point.
Kafelnikov comes through his first test and holds serve from breakpoint down. So it's 4-1 in the opening set. Just a reminder, if you've just joined us, that the winner of this will play Henrik Drakeman, a 7-5, 6-4 winner over Yuri Novak.
Yes, a little unfortunate there, Sampras, but chiefly because I think Kafelnikov just allowed him to get into that game. And I think when you've got a break up, and Sampras is obviously in good form, you've got to look to strike a lot sooner rather than later. And if you do get a short shot that sort of bobbles up in the middle of the court, particularly with this man's power on both forehand and backhand, I think he's really got to step in quickly. It's a slight mind change that's got to occur for Kafelnikov, but I think he has the potential to do it. It's just a matter of doing it.
Pete Sampras, this a one-week excursion to Europe, then he's going back home to the United States. We'll come back and play the Mercedes Super 9 events in Stuttgart and Paris-Bercy, both of which you can see live on Eurosport, exclusively live in the UK. Every day of both events. Second ace.
Left for serve. Left for serve.
Oh, certainly the Sampras serve is into gear now.
Well, it's always worth running these down, although you're hopelessly out of court, you just never know. Plus it gets the old limbs moving. If there are any wrinkles there, you want them ironed out.
Well, that's how to deal with the second serve.
Sampras. Kafelnikov leads 4-2.
Such a good half volley, but even though Kafelnikov missed the shot, nice to see the variety, because having lobbed earlier on, he just steadied.
Yevgeny's girlfriend, Marsha.
15 left.
Well, just a little block return, drifting frustratingly away from Kafelnikov.
Yeah, it's a pity really, because he so seldom serve volleys, and particularly behind the second serve, it might put him off for life.
30-15.
Obviously got a good baritone in the audience too.
Yes, I was going to say it was the double bass of the umpire band. Do they have umpire bands in Switzerland? They would just across the border in Bavaria, I suppose.
Probably hear them from here.
Just a little leaden-footed was Kafelnikov. You don't often say that about him. And for the second game in a row, Sampras has a chance to break back. Well, shame that the breakback secured on a couple of Kafelnikov errors, but Sampras right back in the match now. 4-3 is Kafelnikov's lead, but we're back on serve in the opening set. Welcome back. Oh yes, it's our the wolf whistles are for our pair of beauties in the sashes that we saw earlier. And Yevgeny's having a good long look. I'm not sure that Marsha will approve of that. Anyway, to the tennis, 3-4 first set.
Sampras does look a little sleepy. Of course, he'll be still a little bit on American time, although at their ages you tend to shake off that time difference quite quickly. And sometimes this week he's come on court looking as if he's just woken up.
And that shot suggested he was going back to bed. He should be all right now, though. It's just gone 11 in the morning. Tampa time. If he was at home, he'd probably be going down the third hole by now. Next is golf. And his basketball. Well, was that an outside tickle, or would we have given the batsman the benefit of the doubt there for it?
And I don't think he got a snick to it.
Okay, so we'll give it as a fourth ace to Sampras.
198 kilometers, that one. He's working up a good head of steam.
40-38.
I happened to see a steam train this morning on a little branch line going into Germany. I haven't seen one of those for a long time, and it was a working one too. It was pulling a wagon load. The comeback is complete. Kafelnikov was leading 4-1, now it's 4-all.
Again, a second serve that Kafelnikov really ought to do a lot more with. If Sampras is going to start hitting a lot more first serves in and aces, it's the second serves that are going to count. Much better two-hander from Kafelnikov. Really bent low to that, got more under it. His two-hander's not been as sound this week. Sampras probably used to missing backhands.
So Kafelnikov's ration of 2 double faults a set has now been filled. And now exceeded. And the other problem is he hasn't served any aces since the second game.
Needs a bit more height on the toss.
A point for a 4th successive game for the #1 seed.
It was a pretty unusual backhand that from Sampras, because he very often hits them well down the line and hits them also well occasionally cross-court, but very sharply angled. And for him to have played that as deep to Kafelnikov just as an approach shot.
Yes, he knows he guessed right, and there was a big hole down the line. And you can see that Sampras is really up for this match. Because having lost the last 2 to Kafelnikov, he will want to restore order. Kafelnikov will be relieved to have won that game and to move back in front. 5 games to 4 on serve, first set. Well, a match that's living up to expectations. Kafelnikov off to a flying start. First 3 games, Sampras clawing him back. Not able to move ahead.
15.
But the aces are coming now. 5 of them. And remember, at one stage, it was 3-zip in favour of Kafelnikov. Now it's 5-3 in favour of Sampras. Well, they got that angle to perfection.
Seen a lot of those inside-out forehands tonight. That was Hendrik Drakman-like. Seems like night. Of course it isn't.
You do lose track of time when the indoor season arrives. From the power to the finesse.
5-all.
Yeah, seemed to really fool Kafelnikov all the way. I thought at first it was just a typical reaction at 40 love down by Kafelnikov, but watching it again there, he was on his toes.
Let first serve.
A 4th double fault, and these are getting very expensive now.
first serve percentage dropping alarmingly. But it's never been a particularly great strength of Sampras, the return of serve. I think one of the reasons is that he's introverted on the court. I think if he was danced around a bit more and moved his feet, he'd get into position that much more quickly.
Yeah. See how he hooks this one back.
40-15.
Yes, he certainly couldn't play it anywhere else, but there it was right at the extreme of his reach.
Game. Kafelnikov, he leads 6-5.
Kafelnikov's most convincing game for a long time, and he's in front 6-5. As we look at Yevgeny's girlfriend again, Marshall. We haven't seen her earlier in the week. She's obviously just arrived. Delena Mulcahy, we haven't seen at all. And there'll be a lot of point in Delena coming over for 1 week when Pete's pretty busy. He's just contenting himself with the company of Paul Annacone and Todd Snyder this week.
Yes, they've got to contend. It's one of the problems really for tournaments these days, as opposed to, for instance, when I first played here, you'd come on your own perhaps with your wife, but now of course they have a real retinue of people with them, and they've all got to be looked after, and one wonders sometimes why you don't see the tournament committee a bit more often. But they've got so much to do with their time, apart from the nitty-gritty of the tournament itself, to entertain, look after. You've really got to try and spoil the players, because there are always alternative tournaments for them, and you've got to try and prove to be one of the best.
Five-six, trying to force the tie-break.
Well, I was busy congratulating Kafelnikov for not lobbing earlier, for going for the obvious shot, because I felt that he was going to win it. And slightly lucky volley, well, a very lucky volley by Sampras. Round arm swing, and he didn't middle it.
A first double fault from Sampras, who was explaining after his interview yesterday that the reason he doesn't keep a ball in his pocket is that the way the shorts are cut, the ball has a tendency of popping out. And nothing fortunate about that volley.
New shots these of Sampras. Not that he hasn't played them before, but I can remember two now this week that he's played with tremendous dividends. Drop volley on the forehand side.
Oh! Well, that's a complete misjudgment.
30-all.
Nice to know that even the world's #1 can make a right old muck of things. No, it really came up off the ball and sort of chest lifted, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's wide, and this is set point.
Now try and make up your mind which side Sampras is going to serve, because that's what Kafelnikov has to do.
Forehand. Yes, fine. Okay. Well, actually, Kafelnikov was moving that way as well. On the line.
It's one of the peach variety, I'm afraid.
Advantage, Sampras.
Took a speed off a chip backhand just to get himself steadied, and then two terrific successive shots.
6 aces now from Sampras. Using his grommet to adjust the main strings.
Game, Sampras.
Sampras survives the break point, the set point, and it's a tie break.
6-all. Tie break.
Well, as you can imagine, Sampras plays a few more tiebreakers than does Kafelnikov, and doesn't have quite as good a record, 18-13. Kafelnikov 19-10.
1-0, Kafelnikov.
They've only played one tie-break in their 6 previous matches, and that was the 3rd set of their match in the Davis Cup final last year, indoors at the Olympic Stadium in Moscow. Sampras won the tie-break to win the match, to win the tie, to win the cup.
1-all.
No, of course, Kafelnikov won the first set of the French, didn't he, on a tie-break? Sorry.
2-1, Sampras.
So that's 1-all between them in tie-breaks. One broken string.
2-all.
Oh, maybe he hasn't broken the string.
I think it was the... I thought he had.
Yeah, he has. It was also that...
The thing that stops the vibration,
Yeah.
which popped out at the same time. Tremendous bit of concentrating by Kafelnikov, because he would have been aware automatically of the broken string and tempted sort of to push the ball back, but he went for a good hard cross-quarter.
2-all in the first set tie-break. You really do risk it going in to the Sampras forehand when you've drawn him wide and given him the options.
3-2, Sampras.
Yes, generally you feel that Kafelnikov wins his tiebreakers because of his terrific ground strokes. And one can see why ground strokes are so important in the tiebreaker, that forehand. A terrific illustration. Well, he got hooked up on that one. That was a case of Sampras just not moving the feet quite well enough. Perhaps a slight change of mind too, ending up having to play it inside out.
A mini break apiece as they change ends at 3-all.
Of course, Kafelnikov won the French this year against Stick in 2 tiebreakers. The first time 2 tiebreakers had ever been played in the French singles final.
Somebody in the crowd got a wake-up call.
Closing in beautifully. Kafelnikov was trying to thwart him by slicing the backhand, but he needed a Rosewall backhand. His was far too in the air.
Fourth ace from Kafelnikov, and his first since the 3rd game of the match. So we're now in the 13th. You know, there was a point very early on in that rally where Kafelnikov had a mid-court ball, should have come in, but as soon as he hit it to the forehand, he retreated, thinking, remembering what had happened the last time he came into the forehand. Sampras once again up a mini break. Stunning stuff. 2 set points, Sampras.
Such a clever shot, because he knew he didn't have the power, and he knew Kafelnikov was way back. A fault of Kafelnikov's, because he should have realized that Sampras didn't have the power.
45 minutes, the opening set, and it goes to Sampras, 7-4 in the breakup, after Kafelnikov had led by a break and then had set point.
Well, it's terrific to see these 2 players as keen in the semi-final as if this were a major final. They both really on their toes and wanted desperately.
Well, a very distinguished list of previous champions here. McEnroe, Jakob Hlasek, who at the time was the Swiss #1 and has been in the top 10. Becker, Chang, Ferreira, Courier, unable to defend his title, injured sadly. Stefan Edberg won 3 times in the 80s. It really is a distinguished roll of honour. Some of the distinguished visitors. I think 2 of the local politicians, and no doubt it suits local television to give them a little plug. Yes, it was a terrific first set, wasn't it? Real buzz around this arena. Absolutely packed to the rafters. Lovely to see that as well. 9,000 inside the Jakob Halle. Can the second set match the first? Sampras to serve.
15 love.
Must be heartbreaking when you come up with a couple of really good shots and they just come thumping back.
Yes, the harder you hit them, the more pace there is, and of course the less time you have eventually. You're so committed.
40 love.
Ace number 7.
It's the one real advantage Sampras has, and he has his original coach, Pete Fisher, to thank. It's somewhat easier to move about the back of the court if you're a one-hander on both sides. Kafelnikov stretched wide on the backhand side. He's really out of it. On the other hand, what the two hands on the racket does enable you to do is take a very early ball, and particularly on the return of serve, that can be a distinct advantage, and this is where I think Kafelnikov's just losing it a little bit.
Game Sampras, first game, second set.
A nice comfortable opening service game for Sampras in the second set.
15.
Forehand error from Kafelnikov on the opening point of his opening service game of the second set, and it's a big game for Kafelnikov to win because you feel as if Sampras has almost got this match by the scruff of the neck.
15 all.
Yevgeny's fifth ace.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, the call on that one, through the net. Hit it so hard the net couldn't cope. People not quite familiar with that.
Determined to get it over that time, but overcompensation.
Game, Kafelnikov.
Yes, well done, Yevgeny.
1 all.
Good thing registering these aces again. It means good, strong right-hand grip on the racket, but more than that, good mental grip too. You've certainly got to keep it up.
1 all, second set. First set Sampras on the tiebreak. Sampras' first serve percentage has gone down in the last few games.
Well, there's a terrific cutting edge to the Sampras forehand, and he's just carving notches here wide. A little bit of extra power because it's hit more cleanly. It doesn't have quite as much spin, therefore it's traveling faster. Plus, I think it's fair to say that he's probably got a stronger right arm than Kafelnikov, but Kafelnikov, a lot of the spin, a lot of the power dissipated in more spin.
He's been very good at that today, Sampras. As soon as he's realised he's hit a good ground shot, he's been sneaking in.
Well, it's a prime time to come in, because if the man is on the stretch, the chances are he's not going to have a lot of power. And if you move well, you can cover most shots. But again, Kafelnikov, second serve, and a total mishit.
Sampras, ball change. He leads 2-1, new balls.
We stay on serve in the second set, 2-1 Sampras. Watching Eurosport's live coverage of the second semi-final of the Swiss indoors, Yevgeny Kafelnikov against Pete Sampras.
First serve.
The set Sampras, and he leads 2-1 on serve in the second. The winner to play Hendrik Drakeman. Fifth double from Kafelnikov, first of this set.
Yes, the problem with losing that first set is that it now puts that much more anxiety into the Kafelnikov game. Sort of a desperate resolve, determination to put more power on the serve, more power on the return. And in so doing, you can just lose a little bit of technique.
Oh gosh.
Love 40.
That's a most surprising error, and this is a golden opportunity for Sampras. And he needed some golden touch from Kafelnikov to avoid that break point.
15-40.
Well, played the half volley here with the soft touch of a mother and a baby. Unfortunately for him, the court bouncing low because Sampras was on the sprint.
It's back on the Kafelnikov side. And the momentum is undoubtedly on the Sampras side, 3-1.
Yes, and the problem indoors too is that it's just that much more difficult for Kafelnikov, because Sampras, best of 3 sets as well, can just keep up the power here. Outdoors, the shots may just swing in the wind.
Love 15.
So really, Kafelnikov's almost got to play unbelievable stuff now, unless Sampras lets himself down.
ace number 8. Yes, the face tells it all. This is a great returner, and he keeps missing second serve returns.
That's what he was doing against Goldner, wasn't it, until he was 4-1 down, 4-love down.
15.
Yes, I can't imagine it would be possible for Kafelnikov to come from 2 breaks down against Sampras.
Game, Sampras.
Sampras is on a roll, and he leads by a set, and 4 games to 1.
Sampras leads 4-1.
Indeed, worldwide media interest in this tournament. Some of the photographers whose shots will be being wired around the world. Kafelnikov then, 1-4 down, second set, and a set down to Sampras. And yes, you can just see some people behind Kafelnikov have decided, well, perhaps we ought to go and watch a bit of this tennis.
Love 15.
Well, it's the beauty of the indoor game. It can destroy some of the subtleties, but it really lends itself to power.
And whereas you felt at the start of the match the crowd was firmly behind Sampras, now I think they're becoming quite sympathetic towards Kafelnikov, because he's been battered and bruised by the power of the Sampras serve and forehand. What's also interesting there was the reaction of Sampras, not just the shot, but his own reaction, which just shows you how much this match means to him. Break point.
Deuce.
Yes, I think what one forgets with Sampras as well occasionally is the fact you're so intent on marveling at his forehand that you forget that he got there so quickly. He really is a tremendous athlete, and so important to get there with time to spare, because you can't hit hard unless you're there.
Advantage to Kafelnikov.
Well, all credit to Kafelnikov. It would have been very understandable if he'd have sort of said to himself, gee, this guy's just too good, can't cope with it. Instead, as he did against Goldner, he's gritting his teeth and hanging on in there, and, well, anything is still possible.
That's right, a couple of massive second serves that just miss, that become doubles. He's back in it.
15 love.
Into double figures in terms of aces.
30 love.
Well, you might have seen Kafelnikov at the end of the previous game just going through the exercise of his double-hander. It's been a source of concern. Well, this is where Sampras knew that he didn't even have to punish this ball because Kafelnikov was so far from it to begin with. He didn't have to give it the full power.
Game, Sampras. Sampras leads by 2.
Love game for Pete Sampras, who moves into a 5-2 lead in the second set. Well, Fru, I'll commit the commentator's cardinal sin and assume the result. Can you see Drakeman living with Sampras?
Well, not in this form. Of course, we know only too well, and Paul Annacone will know that he's human, and as a player himself, Annacone will realize that you can have this sort of form one day and come out in court the next and be so very, very different, particularly against a player like Drakeman, who might just mix and match them a little too much initially for Sampras, and plus he won't be the rival that Sampras obviously thinks Kafelnikov and knows Kafelnikov to be, so there's no doubt he's up for this match. Can he get himself up for the next? It's certainly the Sampras that we saw leave off against Tillstrom. He lost 3 points in the second set against Tillstrom, and he's only lost 3 points in his serve now.
And Kafelnikov is serving to stay in the match.
15 love.
Seventh ace for Yevgeny. Good heavens, he's missed a forehand. On the other hand, he's more than made up for it.
30-15.
Well, when he starts making shots like that, you just begin to wonder how great he's going to become.
Six double faults. He was still.
I don't know.
He's asking him how he saw, how was the first serve, and Rich Kaufman, being very honest, is saying, I don't know, too far away from me. That's what you have line judges for.
Game, Kafelnikov. Sampras leads by 3.
Well, even if Yevgeny does lose this match, and that's not certain, I think he's shown us this week, as we look at Richard Kaufman, that there is a more grittiness about his character now. greater grittiness. I'll get my grammar right. He's a bit more prepared to dig in.
Yeah, the point is he's playing such tennis that he feels he can do anything. Touch it all and it'll turn to gold. Now here's a chance for Kafelnikov.
Wasted, and he knows it. Well, there's just no answer to that, and it's 2 match points. A little clenched wrist from Pete Sampras, who has produced a virtuoso performance to beat Yevgeny Kafelnikov. 1 hour and 13 minutes. And through, I don't know about you, but I think the rest of the players will be very glad Pete's going back to the States for the next few weeks and not coming back to Europe till Stuttgart and Paris. Because with him gone, the rest of them have got a chance.
Yeah, terrific performance, really. From the moment that he won those 3 successive points to end the tiebreaker. And let's not forget, I think if Kafelnikov won the tiebreaker, it would have been, might have been a very different story. Just that little tiebreaker that turned the balance, and from that moment on, this man played like a genius.
So Pete Sampras will take on Hendrik Drakeman in the best-of-5 set final of the Swiss indoors tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock UK time. Let's now hear what the man himself made of that performance.
Well, there was a lot of intensity out there today, a lot more than during the week.
Yeah, I felt Yevgeny is a real good player. I mean, I had to play at a very high level. I thought we both played exceptionally well today. You know, the first set, was the key to the match. Once I got that set, I saw him kind of hanging his head. And the second set, I took advantage of that. But it was a good atmosphere today. It was a good crowd. I could feel that, and I played pretty well.
Well, it seemed like you both were enjoying this match. I mean, it's a big battle, but still, it was kind of, I had the feeling you had fun out there.
Well, when I'm playing well and hitting that well, it's a lot of fun. Yevgeny, what can you say? I mean, he's a young guy with a lot of talent. He's a good guy. It's not a lot of personal things out there. Just go out and play.
What were you thinking on set point? I mean, you had those couple floaters, the backhands where, kind of looked shaky. I don't know if they were. And then you got that one point and just go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my best shots. I saw an opening there and I hit it, and it's a strange game. Sometimes you make them, sometimes you don't. I seem to make that one, and then I played a real good tiebreaker, served real well. The second set, it was pretty smooth.
But when you see that forehand coming, I mean, it seems like there's absolutely no hesitation. It seems like you don't even think that you could possibly miss it.
Well, I mean, I'm going to go for it, and there's a chance you'll miss it obviously when you go for a big shot. But whenever I see a forehand come, I take a pretty good swing at it. And on this court, you have to take advantage of those shots because once you hit a really penetrating shot, you just take advantage of it. And so it worked out all right.
If you happen to win tomorrow, this would be your 43rd title in your career. Could you recount all of them, or you weigh them differently?
Well, obviously, you look at the majors. That's the one that I'd stand out more than anything. And whenever I come to a city, even though it's not the biggest tournament in the world, if it's San Jose or Hong Kong, you go out and win. That's what I try to do, no matter what the tournament it is. But obviously, the Grand Slams that I've won always stick out more than anything else I've done in my career.
I mean, what is there left to do for you? You won every Grand Slam but the French. Is that maybe the one that...
Well, I can say, at this point in time in my career, that is the one I haven't won. So, this year I really feel like I made some gains. Maybe with more practice and better conditioning, because I went into the French absolutely with nothing. I just went on emotion, but maybe next year have a little better preparation, and maybe I'll get lucky and win.
Well, it's a good word, preparation, conditioning. Tomorrow the final is going to be best of 5. Do you think that's going to be any factor?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, like I've said all week, the conditions are pretty quick. The points aren't that long, so I feel like my conditioning is pretty good. I'm playing a guy named Driekman I never played before. He's obviously had a great tournament, and hopefully I can take him out.
Well, we all see that. Good. Best of luck for tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming.
No problem.
Yes, he clearly did enjoy a performance that I think everyone enjoyed.
Yes, the problem is, I suppose people would say, well, if you were having fun out there, why don't you show it? And there are some people who would, but I'm with Sampras. I think if it's a serious business out there and you want to concentrate, you can only look forward, and who knows what the next hurdle might be. You might fall at it, so it's not easy to stop and have fun and smile and take it easy.
So there we are. Tomorrow it will be Pete Sampras against Henrik Dreekman, starting 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in Basel. And that, of course, if you're watching back home in the UK, is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, have your Sunday lunch a little bit early. Have a nice bottle of red wine with it, settle down afterwards, and join Fru McMillan and myself for what should be a very enjoyable match, because if Sampras plays as well as that, it's going to be enjoyable, and if he doesn't, well, Dreekman's got a chance, because he's a very talented young man who I think this week has really established himself as a real newcomer on the circuit. Coming up next, it's cycling. I think we must be at the penultimate stage now of the Vuelta, the Tour of Spain. Fru and I are going to enjoy our early night after a lot of late nights, and we'll be fresh and able and willing to see you tomorrow afternoon. So do hope you'll enjoy the rest of your weekend and spend some of it with us here on Eurosport. For now, though, from the entire tennis team, and in particular from Fru McMillan and myself, David Mercer, thanks for your company this afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow. Auf Wiedersehen.